Mina looked around the conference room, her heart beating fast. Today was a big day. After years of study, she was finally going to meet real humans. The sleek metal walls of the ship shone brightly as she waited with the other Nari delegates. Nari had traveled through space for many years. They were known as the smartest beings in the galaxy. Their blue skin and tall bodies made them look different from most species, but what really set them apart was how they lived, without strong feelings. Long ago, the Nari had changed their bodies to stop emotions from getting in the way of thinking clearly. Mina smoothed down her silver uniform. As the ship's top expert on other life forms, she had studied humans for years. But reading about a species and meeting them were very different things. "They're coming," said her commander, Hoon. His face showed no expression as the door slid open. The first human walked in, and Mina blinked in surprise. The pictures hadn't prepared her for how colorful they were. 5 humans entered, all wearing bright clothes that the Nari would never choose. They moved differently too, more freely, less controlled. "Welcome to Earth's first diplomatic ship," said the lead human, stepping forward. He was taller than the others, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to sparkle with life. "I'm Tay, Earth's diplomatic liaison. We're honored to meet your species." Mina tried to focus on his words, but something strange was happening. As soon as their eyes met, her body reacted in ways she didn't understand. A wave of heat rushed through her, starting in her chest and flowing outward. Her hands began to shake. Her breathing got faster. "The honor is ours," replied Hoon calmly, not noticing Mina's distress. Tay smiled, such an open expression, and turned to introduce the rest of his team, but his eyes kept coming back to Mina as if he sensed something different about her. Mina tried to focus on the meeting. She needed to take notes, to remember everything for her research, but her mind felt cloudy and her skin felt too hot inside her environmental suit. These symptoms matched nothing in her medical training. When it was her turn to speak, she stood up shakily. "I am Mina, xenobiology specialist. I have studied your species for 10 cycles." Her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. "Are you all right?" Tai asked suddenly, his face showing what she recognized as concern. "You seem uncomfortable." All eyes turned to her. The other Nari looked confused. A proper Nari never showed signs of distress. It was considered shameful to lose control. "I am adapting to your atmosphere," Mina said quickly. It was a lie, but she couldn't explain what was really happening, especially since she didn't understand it herself. As the meeting continued, Mina struggled to keep still. Her body felt like it was betraying her. She kept her eyes down, afraid to look at Tay again. When she did glance up, she found him watching her with curiosity. After the formal introductions, the group split into smaller discussions. To Mina's dismay, Tay walked directly toward her. "I'd like to learn more about your research," he said. His voice was deeper than the other humans, and for some reason, it made the strange heat inside her grow stronger. "Of course," she managed to say. "What would you like to know?" As they talked about her work studying Earth's wildlife and culture, Mina realized something frightening. The symptoms she was experiencing matched descriptions in ancient Nari texts that described mating responses from before their species had engineered emotions away. But that was impossible. Those biological pathways had been removed from Nari genetics centuries ago. "Your species is fascinating," Tay said, leaning slightly closer. "So controlled, so logical. I wonder, though, do you ever miss feeling things strongly?" The question hit too close to what was happening to her. Mina's hand trembled as she reached for her datapad. "We do not miss what we have evolved beyond," she said automatically, repeating what all Nari were taught. Tai smiled as if he didn't quite believe her. "Evolution is interesting that way. Sometimes old traits find ways to come back when you least expect them." Something in his words made Mina look up sharply. Did he somehow know what was happening to her? No, that wasn't possible. As the meeting ended and the humans prepared to leave, Mina felt both relief and an unexpected sadness. She needed to get back to her lab and run tests on herself immediately. "I hope we'll talk again soon," Tay said, pausing at the door. "I think our species have much to learn from each other." Mina could only nod, not trusting herself to speak. As the door closed behind the humans, she slumped against the wall, her mind racing. Something about human biology, perhaps their pheromones or energy fields, had awakened something that should have been long dead in her species. And if it had happened to her, would other Nari experience the same reaction? What would it mean for their carefully ordered society? One thing was certain: she couldn't tell anyone yet, not until she understood what was happening to her body, and why just one look at a human male had sent her into a biological state her people had thought impossible for generations. Mina closed the lab door and checked twice to make sure it was locked. The bright white lights hummed softly as she turned to Jin, her most trusted colleague. No one else could know about what she had discovered, not yet. "Look at these results," she said, pointing to the screen showing her medical scans. The normal blue patterns had changed, showing strange red areas throughout her system. Jin leaned closer, his eyes growing wider. "This can't be right. Your body is changing." "The readings are unmistakable," Mina told him as they examined the data. "Something about human biology is triggering dormant pathways in my system." Jin looked concerned as he studied the charts. "Your body temperature is elevated, and these hormone levels, they match our ancestral mating responses, the very ones we engineered out generations ago." Mina nodded, feeling both scared and excited. For 3 days since meeting the humans, she had been experiencing the strange sensations, the heat, the racing heart, the odd focus on the human called Tai. It was like nothing she had ever felt before. "Our people removed these responses because they were too strong, too distracting," Jin said, his voice low. "They thought pure logic was better than emotion. But now those pathways are waking up again," Mina replied, "and only when humans are near." The next day, Mina had to attend another meeting with the human delegation. She tried to prepare herself, taking calming medication and wearing extra cooling layers in her suit. But the moment Tay walked in, the feelings returned, even stronger than before. She noticed something new this time. When she managed to look around the room, she saw 2 other Nari scientists shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Were they feeling it too? After the meeting, Mina pretended to need samples from the humans for standard research. She collected small skin cells, hair strands, and measured their electromagnetic fields while they weren't paying attention. Back in the lab that night, Jin helped her analyze the new data. "This is amazing," he whispered as the results appeared on screen. The human cells glowed with unusual patterns. "Their cellular structure contains elements I've never seen before." Mina pointed to a particular reading. "See this? Their bodies produce energy signatures that somehow interact with ours. It's like they have a key that unlocks parts of our biology we forgot existed." For the next 3 days, Mina and Jin worked in secret. They ran test after test, comparing human samples to Nari genetics. The more they discovered, the more exciting and frightening it became. "There's something unique in their cellular structure," she told Jin after analyzing the final results. "They evolved on a planet with radiation patterns unlike anything in our records. Their sun, their soil, their water. Everything shaped them differently." Jin's eyes widened as he understood. Could humans be the key to restoring what our species sacrificed for stability? The question hung in the air between them. The Nari had given up so much in their quest for logical perfection. They had engineered out strong emotions, deep connections, and passionate responses. Their society ran perfectly without conflict or chaos, but something had been lost too. Something Mina was now feeling for the first time. "If others find out about this, they'll shut down the human contact," Jin warned. "The Council values our biological purity above all else." "But what if they're wrong?" Mina asked. "What if we've been missing part of ourselves all this time?" That night, unable to sleep, Mina reviewed the historical texts about ancient Nari society. Before the great engineering, their people had been different. More passionate, more creative, and yes, more chaotic. They had made art that moved others to tears. They had fallen deeply in love. They had fought for beliefs. All those things seemed strange to modern Nari. The next morning, as she prepared for another diplomatic meeting, Mina made a decision. She would continue her research in secret, but she would also try something dangerous. She would stop taking her standard emotional suppressants. She needed to understand the full effect humans had on Nari biology. The meeting began normally, with discussions about trade and technology exchange. But when Tai entered the room and smiled at her, Mina felt the rush of heat more strongly than ever before. Without the suppressants, the feeling was almost overwhelming. "Are you finding our meetings productive?" Tai asked her during a break, standing closer than Nari ever stood to each other. "Very informative," she managed to reply, aware that her voice sounded different, higher. He looked at her curiously. "You seem different today. More present." Had he noticed the change in her? Was that possible? Before she could answer, alarms began to sound. Another Nari delegate had collapsed, overcome by the same symptoms Mina was fighting to control. As medical teams rushed in, Mina caught Jin's worried gaze across the room. Their secret was coming out, whether they were ready or not. The question now was, would contact with humans be seen as a threat to Nari society, or the key to recovering something precious they had lost long ago? Mina stood stiffly in Director Day's office, trying not to show her fear. The large window behind Day showed the stars outside their ship, but Mina couldn't enjoy the view today. She was in trouble. "The Council is concerned about these reports," Director Day informed Mina sternly. His face showed no emotion, as was proper for Nari, but his voice was cold. "3 other Nari have begun showing similar symptoms. They're calling it biological contamination." Mina took a deep breath. "It's not contamination," she argued. "It could be biological awakening, something we've lost." Director Day's eyes narrowed slightly. "Lost? We did not lose anything, researcher Mina. Our ancestors made careful choices to improve our species. They removed the chaos of emotions so we could reach our full potential." "But what if they were wrong?" Mina asked, surprised by her own boldness. "What if emotions are not just chaos?" "This is exactly my concern," Dai said, standing up. "The contact with humans is affecting your thinking. You were selected for this mission because of your logical mind. Now you question our most basic values." Mina knew she should stop arguing. Good Nari didn't challenge authority, but something inside her, something that had awakened since meeting the humans, pushed her to continue. "With respect, Director, I am a scientist. My job is to question and learn. The humans have triggered something in our biology that should be impossible. Doesn't that deserve study rather than fear?" Director Day walked to the window, his back to her. "The Council has called an emergency meeting. Some members want to end all contact with humans immediately. Others want to continue, but with strict rules. No Nari may spend more than 30 minutes with humans at one time." Mina felt a wave of panic. "That would ruin our diplomatic mission. The humans would see it as an insult." "Better an insult than a biological crisis," Day replied. "Until we understand what's happening, we must be careful." As Mina left the meeting, her mind raced. The situation was getting worse. If the Council decided humans were dangerous, they might leave Earth completely. All her research would be lost. And there was something else, a strange sadness at the thought of never seeing Tay again. That afternoon, another diplomatic meeting took place. The Nari representatives sat farther from the humans than before. 2 guards stood by the door, watching carefully. The humans noticed the change but said nothing. Halfway through the meeting, a female Nari scientist suddenly stood up, her face showing clear distress, an expression no proper Nari should display. She tried to speak, but could only make strange sounds before collapsing. Another male Nari began shaking soon after. Both were quickly removed from the room. The remaining Nari acted as if nothing had happened, continuing their presentations without pause. The humans exchanged confused looks. When the meeting ended, Mina gathered her materials quickly, hoping to leave before anyone could question her. But as she reached the door, she heard Tay's voice behind her. "Mina, could I speak with you privately?" She should say no, the Council would disapprove. But she found herself nodding and following him to a small side room. Once they were alone, Tay looked directly into her eyes. "Something's happening when our species interact, isn't it?" he asked directly. Mina hesitated, then nodded. Your species has an effect on mine. It's activating dormant biological systems. Is it dangerous? Tay's face showed real concern. Not dangerous, just forgotten, Mina explained, feeling strangely comfortable telling him the truth. We engineered emotional reactions out of our biology centuries ago. Humans are somehow reversing that process. Tay looked surprised. You removed emotions? All of them? Strong emotions lead to irrational choices, Mina said, repeating what all Nari learned as children. Without them we advanced quickly. But at what cost? Tay asked softly. Emotions aren't just distractions, they give life meaning. The words touched something deep inside Mina. She had been asking herself the same question. What had her people lost in their quest for perfect logic? Our leaders are afraid, she admitted. They may end contact with humans. Because we make you feel things? Tay asked. Because you remind us of what we used to be, Mina replied. And some Nari don't want to remember. Tay stepped closer and far. Mina felt the now familiar heat rise in her body. And what about you, do you want to remember? Before she could answer, the door opened. Director Dai stood there, his expression as close to anger as a Nari could show. Researcher Mina, you are violating protocol. No private meetings with humans were authorized. I asked her to explain something, Tay said quickly. It's my fault. Researcher, Mina knows our rules, Day said coldly. She will return to the ship immediately for medical examination. As Mina walked past, Day added quietly, The Council has made their decision. All contact will be limited to formal meetings only. No individual Nari may speak to humans without supervision. That night, Mina couldn't sleep. Her mind kept returning to Tay's question. Did she want to remember what it felt like to have emotions? The logical part of her knew emotions were messy and unpredictable. But another part, a part that was growing stronger each day, wondered if her people had given up too much in their quest for perfection. Outside her window, Earth shone like a blue jewel. On that planet lived beings who felt everything deeply, joy, sadness, fear, and something the humans called love. Now those beings were awakening the same potential in the Nari, whether the Council liked it or not. Mina worked late in the lab, breaking the new rules about sleep and rest periods. She didn't care. What she had discovered was too important. The small room glowed with blue light from her equipment as she ran test after test on the human cellular samples. Jin, come quickly, she called through the communication system. Her voice sounded different these days, more alive with ups and downs that would have been considered improper just weeks ago. Jin arrived minutes later, his face showing the slight expressions that many Nari were now experiencing, small changes that would have been unthinkable before the humans came. Look at this, Mina exclaimed, pointing to the holographic display where human and Nari cells floated side by side. Jin leaned closer, his eyes widening. The human cells glowed with a golden light that seemed to reach out toward the Nari cells. Where they touched, the Nari cells changed color from blue to purple. The human cellular structure contains compounds that act as catalysts for our dormant genetics, Mina explained, unable to hide her excitement. They're not just triggering mating responses. They're activating entire sections of our genetic code that have been dormant for generations. Jin moved closer to the display, his scientific training battling with new emotions. These sections, they control more than mating. They affect brain function, creative thinking, even our ability to form deep bonds. Exactly. Mina spun around, her movements freer than any proper Nari would allow. We didn't just remove emotions. We removed parts of ourselves that make us complete beings. The Council will never accept this, Jin warned. His face showed worry, another new expression for him. They'll say you've been contaminated. Then we need human help, Mina said, making a quick decision. I need to show this to Tay. Breaking at least 5 Council rules, Mina sent a message to the human ship, asking Tay to meet her in the neutral science lab. She knew she might lose her position or worse, but something stronger than fear drove her now. When Tay arrived, Mina showed him everything, the tests, the results, and her theory about what was happening between their species. So when we're near you, our cells send signals that wake up parts of your DNA that have been turned off? Tay asked, trying to understand. Yes. And not just any parts. The parts that make us feel deeply, connect strongly, and think creatively, Mina explained. The parts our ancestors thought made us weak. Tay watched the display with wonder. When she presented her findings to him, he immediately understood the implications. Your people sacrificed biological diversity for stability. Our presence is disrupting that. Not just disrupting, Mina corrected. Restoring. They talked for hours, forming a plan that seemed impossible. They would need to convince both their governments to work together, to study this connection further instead of breaking it apart. The next day, Mina faced the Nari Council, breaking protocol by showing emotions openly as she spoke. Some members looked disgusted, but others leaned forward with interest. The changes happening to us are not damage, she told them firmly. They are repair. To her surprise, 3 council members nodded slightly. She wasn't alone in questioning the old ways. On the human side, Tay fought his own battle. They're not trying to spy on us or steal our DNA, he assured his suspicious leaders. This is about helping a species remember who they once were. After 7 tense days of meetings, arguments, and demonstrations, they succeeded. Together, they convinced both governments to establish a joint research initiative. Not everyone was supportive. Traditionalist Nari feared change, while some humans worried about exploitation. But enough leaders on both sides saw the potential. Benefits. The day the agreement was signed, Mina stood before the Joint Council of Humans and Nari. She noticed how the Nari members sat stiffly while the humans shifted in their seats, leaned forward, and used their hands while talking. Yet some younger Nari were beginning to mirror these more natural movements. What we're discovering goes beyond diplomacy, Mina told the Joint Council, her voice strong and clear. Our species may have ancient, forgotten connections. The reactions I experienced might be the first sign of a biological compatibility nobody suspected. She showed them new research, suggesting that both species might have been seeded by the same ancient race, or perhaps evolved on planets with similar conditions before taking different paths. The humans didn't just wake up our emotions, she explained. They're helping us access lost abilities, better immune responses, faster healing, and ways of thinking our logical minds couldn't reach before. As she finished speaking, she looked at Tay, who smiled encouragingly. That warm feeling spread through her body again, but now she understood it wasn't just a mating response. It was connection, friendship, and possibility, things her people had forgotten but could now remember thanks to humans. The new research center would open the next day. There, Nari and humans would work together to explore their strange compatibility. Some Nari would choose to remain unchanged, keeping their logical purity. Others would embrace the awakening. But now, at least, they would have a choice. As Mina left the council chamber, she felt something she had no word for in her language. The humans called it hope. The grand hall of the Human Nari Biological Research Institute sparkled under bright lights. After 6 months of hard work, the dream had become real. Mina looked around the room, still amazed by how much had changed. Nari and humans stood together, talking and laughing. Some Nari still looked uncomfortable with their new feelings, but they were trying. Mina smoothed down her new style uniform. Gone was the stiff silver outfit of the past. Now she wore a flowing blue robe that the old council would never have approved. But the old council didn't run things anymore. A new mixed group of both traditional and progressive Nari had taken over. Nervous? Asked Tay, appearing beside her. After all these months working together, his presence still made her feel warm inside, but now she understood these feelings and could control them. A little, she admitted. Being able to say how she felt still seemed strange sometimes. This is the biggest day of my life. The crowd grew quiet as Director Day stepped to the speaking platform. He had fought against the Human Nari project at first. Now he was one of its strongest supporters. Today we celebrate not just a building, but a new way forward, Dai said, his voice showing more feeling than any Nari leader had used in centuries. I invite Dr. Mina to share her thoughts with us. Mina walked to the platform, looking out at the mixed crowd. She had practiced her speech many times, but now different words came to her heart. 6 months ago, I met my first humans, she began. That day changed everything. My body felt things I didn't understand, things our history books called dangerous and primitive. The crowd listened closely as she continued. Now we know better. Those feelings weren't primitive. They were essential parts of ourselves that we had locked away. When I first met humans, my body remembered what my civilization had forgotten, that emotions and logical thought aren't opposed, they evolved together for a reason. She explained the treatment she had developed. It allowed Nari to control their responses while keeping the good effects of human exposure. No more sudden collapse or loss of control. Instead, Nari could choose how much emotion to allow, slowly, adjusting to their new abilities. Some of you have chosen to remain traditional, keeping your logical purity, she said, nodding to a group of Nari in classic silver uniforms. We respect your choice. Others have embraced full emotional awakening. She gestured to Nari wearing colorful clothes like humans. Most of us have found a middle path, keeping our logical strength while adding emotional depth. All paths are valid. Choice itself is what matters. As Mina finished her speech, people from both species stood and clapped, a human custom that some Nari had adopted. The sound filled the hall. The scientific exchange had grown into cultural understanding. Nari were learning to embrace their rediscovered heritage, while humans gained access to advanced technology. Already, human doctors were using Nari medical devices to treat diseases. Nari artists were creating music again after centuries of silence. After the formal ceremony, people moved around the hall, eating, drinking, and talking. Mina watched with satisfaction. 6 months ago, Nari would never have eaten in public. It was considered too basic a function for social settings. Now they were sharing food with humans, trying new flavors, and showing pleasure when they liked something. Your treatment has changed everything, said Jin, now head of biological research. The young ones especially are adapting well. Mina nodded. The treatment helps, but time and exposure are the real healers. Each generation will find their own balance. As the ceremony concluded, Tay approached Mina with 2 glasses of sparkling drink, another human custom the Nari had started to enjoy. Who would have thought that an embarrassing biological reaction would lead to revolutionary scientific discovery? He said, offering her a glass. Mina smiled, now comfortable with the warmth his presence created. Early on, she had worried these feelings might be romantic love, something Nari had engineered away long ago. But she had discovered it was something else, something humans called friendship, a deep connection between minds that Nari had also lost. Sometimes the body remembers what the mind forces itself to forget, she replied. Our future will be stronger because of what both our species can learn from each other. Later that night, when the celebrations were done, Mina stood alone on the viewing platform of the new institute. Below her spread the lights of the first mixed human Nari city. In the distance stood the old Nari compound, still home to traditionalists, who feared change. She didn't blame them for their fear. Change was hard. She herself still struggled with new emotions, especially negative ones like sadness and anger. But she wouldn't go back to the old way. Not now that she had experienced the fullness of life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The research was showing that human-Nari compatibility went even deeper than they had first thought. Some scientists believed the 2 species might have common ancestors, despite evolving on different planets. Whatever the truth, one thing was clear. The universe had brought them together for a reason. 2 incomplete halves making each other whole again. As Mina watched a transport ship rise into the night sky, carrying the first Nari tourists to visit Earth, she felt that unnamed emotion again. The humans called it hope. She was beginning to like that word. The end.